The Electronic Gaming Monthly Compendium was announced today. We're going to read from the press release. EGM Media LLC proudly announces the Electronic Gaming Monthly Compendium, a new book and companion website that honors the legacy and rich content archive of one of the most influential and longest-running video game magazines ever to exist. Pre-orders of the book's special first edition are available starting today through a first-of-its-kind Kickstarter campaign with exclusive backer rewards honoring EGM's history. Over its 25-year print run, Electronic Gaming Monthly captivated tens of millions of readers around the globe with its opinionated, fearless, and often irreverent coverage of the world of video games. The EGM Compendium will combine meticulously curated excerpts from the magazine with modern insights and never-before-told stories to offer a detailed exploration of both the magazine and the broader gaming landscape. Spanning over 320 pages of rich video game history, the EGM Compendium will chart the development of the most noteworthy games, franchises, cultural shifts, and industry trends from throughout EGM's quarter century of publication. With a long list of contributors that includes EGM alum, current and former game developers, and modern gaming influencers, the EGM Compendium will also highlight the perspectives, memories, and insights of dozens of icons from across the gaming world. The book will feature content, and these are bullet points, exclusive interviews and round tables. Round tamers. You got lines in there. We need some round tamers too. Former EGM editors, game developers, and influencers weigh in on the magazine and games and events that chronicled the pages. In-depth history, you have write-ups of all 264 numbered issues of EGM to tell the story of the gaming industry month by month through a mixture of new and archival material. You can go deeper on the biggest stories, longer features throughout the book, yada, yada, yada. Visually dynamic layout, no stodgy walls of text here, and high-quality print edition, the physical version.
Stodgy walls of text.
This is where the press release starts to get a little, we're just telling you what's in there. It's flowery. I can't believe it. And I'm sure it just got edited out in our thing here by Bless. The most important thing for me is that it's going to also launch a website that is the PDF archive of every EGM ever.
Oh, that's
and it's going to be searchable. Yeah, you see it here. You searchable. So I have a press access. I got to go in there. Immediately went to the Superman stuff. Started looking at Superman 64. Went to the WrestleMania review. No Mercy and stuff. Right.
That is 100% the coolest part of this.
I think the compendium is awesome. This is such a nice thing, and this is if you back it or whatever, you can get in there and go through every issue, which I assure you I will. Because Jason,
that is useful for video game history.
Yeah. EGM is the reason I'm here. You understand? I don't know.
Because you grew up reading EGM.
Yeah. When I was a kid, the story goes that, I had an issue of Game Pro. On the cover, Death and Return of Superman. On the inside, Maximum Carnage. Read it cover to cover every night for a month. Had a note card with every toy store and video game shop in town. And Death and Return of Superman said it would come out in the summer. So starting in May, I called every store every night asking if they had it, and they never did. But after a month of reading the magazine cover to cover, I walked in the kitchen and said, "Mom, I know what I want to do with my life. I want to write about video games." And they were nice enough to say, "Okay, well, that's journalism, so that's what we'll start." Blah blah. And it was EGM was the magazine I fell in love with that had an identity, where it was the review crew, and it was Crispin, and it was Shu, of course, my idol, Dan Shu.
So without EGM, there wouldn't be
any of this. There would be none of this right here.
Shu, former Blizzard employee.
I know. Yeah. Well, Shu got around, right? After EGM, he got all over the place. When this came through, you see so many Kickstarters for, here's the best NES books or the compendium of SNES stuff and even with Game Informer's passing, which was super sad, it was that thing of I was sad about it, but it wasn't my magazine. Mm-hmm. So the fact that my magazine is being honored this way, I'm so stoked about it. I backed it right away this morning. Do you care about EGM?
I care about media people having jobs and getting money. So in that sense, I'm happy that this thing exists. But no, I didn't I read a couple of magazines growing up here and there, but I was never emotionally attached to any of these gaming zines or anything like that.
So for you then, number one games journalist Jason Schreier, best-selling author, author of Play Nice, available right now. Everybody go pick it up.
Available wherever books are sold.
How did you get on this path?
So I knew I wanted to be a writer growing up, and then got really into journalism in high school and college. And the high school paper, I was editor of my high school paper, and wrote a bunch of stuff in college. And at NYU, I got to interview Natalie Portman. That was a career.
Oh wow!
Highlight.
And was this about episode 1? What were you interviewing about?
No, she was doing some fundraising thing, and she just was doing interviews with the school paper. And so Natalie Portman was my crush growing up. Nice. So can I tell you that as a journalist, if you ever want to get over being starstruck, First thing you do is in college, you interview Natalie Portman, and that will just kind of like make all.
Yeah, it's all downhill from here.
Exactly, because it's like what I mean. I can interview all these like famous game developers, and I'll just be like, I interviewed Natalie Portman. Doesn't matter.
Yeah, exactly.
Now. Although I got a little bit nervous last week actually because I got to meet Matt Stone, co-creator of South Park, and was chatting with him. I got mildly nervous, but still not even.
Where'd you run into him?
He was at this Bloomberg conference that we did, and so I was chatting him, wanted to give him a copy of the book.
My story with that, to piggyback off of, when they did the first South Park game, the first good one from Ubisoft.
Yeah, Stick of Truth.
Stick of Truth, thank you. I had butthole on my head. When I got to go do their Comic-Con panel.
Oh, nice.
Where it was just me and them. And they helicoptered in, they were super late, they came up, we were on not Hall H, but the next biggest thing. They sat on opposite ends of the table from each other, and I was there. And I remember, I was just doing my thing, just hosting, and I wasn't nervous. I do it all the time. And at one point, I forget if it was Trey or Matt. It might have been Matt, I think, who was like lamenting how hard the game making was. And I went over and I cradled his head against my bosom. And afterwards, when I came off stage, they immediately went on the helicopter and flew away. And everybody was like, we can't believe you did that. Like no one touches them. And I was like, yeah,
that's extremely
That's the
funny.
Greg Miller effect.
Matt was quite nice. He's actually good friends with like my old boss, Nick Denton. So we talked about that a little bit, but no. So for me, I think that at this point in my life, I do not get nervous when I'm doing things professionally, like interviewing people.
Yeah.
But when I am going up to someone and just chatting with them, kind of like informally, but they also had this huge influence on my life.
Yeah,
then I
that's
get
fair.
a little
That's
bit
fair.
nervous.
That's fair. I understand.
But yes, I mean, to answer your question.
So yeah, sorry,
finish that. It's just like I was just always into journalism, and then kind of accidentally stumbled into writing about video games.
How do you stumble into that?
Well,
you love games the entire way.
I'll tell you, I love games. Yeah, I grew up playing games. Was always playing video games. NES, I was playing at like 2 years old and like trying to beat Final Fantasy when I was 5, which could not get past the Marsh Cave. This is not good support. We need the hardcover up in here.
I thought maybe you'd bring some copies, but you were like,
I have one in my backpack, but too late now.
We'll get it out here for the real one.
So I after college, I went to I moved back to my parents' place for a few months while I was like trying to figure out what to do, and I wound up freelancing for a bunch of just kind of random local news places. And I was in this room and covering this zoning board meeting, and there were these guys
I know this so well
who are just arguing over whether a fence is allowed to be 25 feet or 20 feet or something like that. And I was just like, I am going to like blow my brains out if I have to keep doing this. So I will go and find something more interesting to cover. And I was like, maybe I should just try writing about video games. And then through happenstance and good fortune and like all these kind of crazy twists and turns, I wound up just sticking with it. Like I never thought I would actually be doing this for as long as I have. It was a total accident.
Yeah.
This episode is brought to you by New World Eternum. New World Eternum is a thrilling action RPG experience for console and PC players with a vibrant world, vast and beautiful setting, dynamic real-time action combat, and the freedom for players to choose how to forge their destiny. Combat is skill-based and dynamic, incorporating swords, guns, and sorcery so that you can build one character to rule them all as you explore Eternum and unravel the mysteries of the supernatural island that you can't leave. You love playing RPGs alone? You can in New World Eternum, or play cooperatively with your friends as you complete quests, get better gear, and level up. Greg played this at Summer Game Fest on PlayStation 5 and was caught off guard by how much he enjoyed it and how many hours he said he could see himself sinking into the final product. There's boss fights, cool enemies, crossplay, resource gathering, and crafting. So yeah, this sounds like a Greg game. New World Eternum is available now on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, and PC.
So this is an interesting, first off, I feel that story so much because for me it was always the Columbia Housing Authority when it was them arguing about like what are these redesigns, and I'd be there and it's 7:30 on a Tuesday. I'm like, what is going on?
You know the J School experience.
You gotta get out there, you gotta pound the pavement.
Yeah.
You say you never imagined you'd be doing it this long. Do you? We had a conversation here recently, I forget what, with whatever the last round of gaming press layoffs were.
Yeah.
And it was that conversation of games journalism, whatever, enthusiast press, whatever you want to call it. Is there a future in it? Is it blah, blah, blah? It's changing, of course, but you still are like the stalwart, the gold standard. You're the deal, right? Like, do you worry about your future? Like, specifically you, and like, because Bloomberg seems like it's been a great fit and everything's been fantastic.
Bloomberg's great. Yeah, I would love to stick around here. I'm not like super worried about my future. I just don't know how like, well, I don't know. I don't know what the future. People keep asking me like, what am I going to do next after this book? And a large part of me wants to do fiction next.
Oh, nice.
Because that's something I've always been interested in doing. So maybe my career will pivot to just being a full-time novelist.
You're like, I'm done. I'm going out on top.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of the dream, right? To just like sit in a cabin. And,
I was going to say, have this nice cardigan on and be writing.
Oh my God, that would be amazing. Yeah, I mean, I think about this all the time. For me, I can see my career path going more into just kind of sticking with journalism, even if I switch beats or something like that, or sticking with mainstream publications. I'm a lot more worried about peers who don't. I mean, I'll be fine because I have been very fortunate to build kind of a brand or whatever. Like people know who I am.
You're a name, yeah.
So I think that'll always help. Whereas I'm a lot more worried about people who are just coming up. When I was at Stanford University last night for a talk, and this woman came up to me afterwards. She was a freshman or sophomore or something like that, and she was into journalism, and she was like, "How can I get into video game journalism?" And it really, I did not want to be super bleak and say to her like, "Don't even try."
Yeah.
But like, how can you possibly give good advice now? There's nowhere to even start. So. It's tough, man. I feel for other people. I'm not worried about myself. I feel for like people who are just trying to get in.
So what did you tell that girl?
I told her. I mean, I just gave her some more kind of broader writing advice and journalism advice. The advice I give everybody. Free piece of advice for you, Greg, as you're growing up, as
I
you're
appreciate this. I need
trying
this.
to
Thank you.
build a career.
I've been trying to get out of here for a while.
Yeah, right.
I keep going to the expulsion room, but I sneak out.
The expulsion room isn't working on you. I always tell people there's like this kind of truism, like do what you love or whatever, or follow what you love, which I don't think is great advice. I think the best advice is do what you are good at. And if you are good at something and you identify what you're good at, and it has to have like something specific and specialized and uncancelizable. If you're good at something and you know you're good at it, then first of all, you will wind up loving it, because if you're good at it, you'll just take a certain satisfaction in doing it and pride in doing it. And second of all, you will find a lot more success than just picking what you love and doing it. The hard part about this advice is that it requires kind of being honest with yourself and recognizing what you're good at and being truthful about that. But if you can do that, if you can kind of pinpoint that one thing that you're really, really good at, then maybe nobody else is as good as you, or you're like really one of the best at it, then I think you can find success.
That's what I've always. My advice has changed too over the years, right? Because in the old days, it was like just start doing it. You'll never be good at it. Yeah. I should have been writing from the fourth grade on. I should have been writing reviews instead of when EGM did an open call. I was like, I'll write my first reviews and submit them, and clearly I'll get the job. But beyond that, it is the idea that I tell people all the time now of like, there already is an IGN, there already is a GameSpot, there already is the catch-alls. You need to try to be the JRPG person. If you're the wrestling game person, you're the Madden person, you're an expert in a field. So when people go, oh, I need this, I do that. I want to get that person involved. Yeah. Agreed. So you worry about the peers, you worry about it, but like, it's okay, right? I mean, it will be okay, right?
I hope so. I mean, sometimes I feel like we've gone through these cycles of corrections, and like both the video game industry and the journalism industry have gone through these kind of ups and downs over the years. There were certainly periods, even when I started at Kotaku in 2012, we were all like, are YouTubers going to destroy print media? And that hasn't happened yet. So there's still some space. It's funny. We were all worried about YouTubers. We should have been worried about Google destroying the web media. I said print media. What I mean is web media, text media. I mean, it feels to me like if there's one kind of takeaway from this, and I think we're going to start to see it, it's that like these companies just need to train readers and convince readers to pay for their work and subscribe to their work. And that's something that I'm happy to see, kind of funny, and a bunch of people at Substacks, like my former boss, Stephen Totillo, and a lot of other kind of subscription models. Like that's the future. The only way to support media, the only way for media to be a viable business is to have readers pay for it, because like we've convinced the internet has convinced us all over the last 30 years that news should be free, and news is not free. It requires labor. It requires payment. So if we get back to a position where we've convinced people like, okay, if you want really good gaming news, if you want to support this journalist that you like, you have to pay for them, then I think we'll start getting into a better place. And so,
yeah, that's been the silver lining I've seen to it, is the fact that when you see these layoffs, you see something like Aftermath pop up, right? You see there's a kind of funny contingent to IGN and so on and so forth. You jump through all these hoops. And it is that idea that there's these smaller groups with a lower ceiling in terms of what the cost is, which then can be supported by a community like our community, right? Where it is, you come out, you pay for the thing that doesn't, and then there is the free version for everybody else. But as long as you have people who are going, I love this enough to pay for it, and whether it be Kind of Funny, whether it be any of the other numbers of sites, that's the way this works.
Yeah, and there are like a million different models you could have. You could have free for X number of articles, and then you pay for the rest. You could have a free version and a paid version. There are a lot of things you can do. But I think breaking away from the advertisement reliant model is the key to long-term success. Because otherwise, I mean, you had over the last few years, a lot of the gaming sites pursued guides because that's what was popping up on Google.
Oh, we need the wikis. We need the guides.
And then the problem with that is like you kind of know that your time is limited because you are relying on an external business, Google. And as soon as Google changes their algorithms and puts that little AI box that steals all your stuff, you are screwed.
Yeah.
So I think that like these businesses, like a business cannot succeed on that, like when it's that dependent on another business. So I mean, it's you need that sort of subscription model in order for any of these businesses to be viable.
Yeah.
IGN, I'm sure, will be around for 20 more, 50 more years, however many more years at its current model. But like anything smaller than the biggest of the big, I think will need to pursue other forms of it. And even IGN, I mean, you have a lot of these sites that have gone way beyond traditional advertising and into sponsored content and other stuff like that. So, including you guys. So it's kind of, you need more than just the banner ads, because that clearly doesn't make money anymore.